In this video, I'm going to go through the solution to the suspense account question, Apprehensive Limited. This is a question in the practice questions handout, and it's a challenging question. One of the features of it is that it doesn't include the trial balance with the list of balances in it. So some of what you might call the easier corrections aren't a feature of this question to the same extent. There still are a few that need to be dealt with, but they're a little bit more challenging because you don't have the visual assistance of the trial balance. So I've just copied the question into Excel here. So just reading through it to get a sense of it. So the accounts clerk at Apprehensive Limited has telephoned you looking for assistance. The latest trial balance he has prepared did not balance to the tune of 12,879. The total debits exceeded the total credits. So the debit column was the bigger column, the greater value was in that column, which meant that our suspense account balance had to go into the credit column. So we have a credit value on the suspense account. The managing director urgently requires the management accounts for the period, so there's a hint of panic in this process. So you've examined the trial balance and nominal ledger and have identified the following errors and omissions, and you can see that there's 8 items that we need to attend to. And the requirement then is prepare journal entries correcting all of the above errors and omissions and draft the suspense account. So we'll have a look at the first of these. Okay, so just focus our attention on the first item here. So the bank overdraft balance of 1,237 was brought down on the wrong side of the trial balance. Now, I've highlighted the word overdraft. Okay, so again, an overdraft means you owe money to the bank, and again, in trying to figure out what's the correct side and what's the wrong side for the balance, you need to be familiar with this concept of dead clicks. So I'll just momentarily show this. So dead click, remember, debit balances for expense items, assets and drawings, credit balances for liabilities, income and capital. So an overdraft is money owed to the bank, it's a liability. So the bank account should have been shown on the credit side. Okay, so what we did was we put it on the wrong side. Okay, so I'll just show what we did was we put 1,237 on the debit side, and in fact we want 1,237 on the credit side. So we have to both cancel the mistake and put in what we want. So I'm just going to highlight this. This is what we need to do to fix that mistake. Okay, so we put it on the wrong side, which was the debit side. Remember, a liability should have gone on the credit side. So this is the solution. Cancel the mistake and put in what we want. Okay, so that's just again a rough working to help figure out what needs to happen with this particular transaction. So I'll go to item number 2. Okay, so you're told the aggregate depreciation of plant and equipment totaling 7,367 had been brought down on the wrong side of the trial balance. Now, aggregate depreciation, again, if I just momentarily show dead click, remember aggregate depreciation appears in the balance sheet, so it has to be one of assets or liabilities, capital or drawings, and it's a special type of provision, a special type of liability known as a provision. So aggregate depreciation is a liability of a special type. Its balance should go on the credit side. So we put it on the wrong side. So our aggregate depreciation plant and equipment must have gone on the debit side. So this is what we did in fact do. But what we want is we want it on the credit side, so we have to cancel the mistake as well. So again, these two things, the wants and the cancels, are what we must ultimately do to correct the mistake that we made. Okay, so that's that item 2. Item 3. Okay, so sales returns in the current month had not been entered into the debtor's control account. The gross amount of the returns was 434, including 23% VAT, and the entries in the other relevant accounts were correct. Now, this is concerned with sales returns. So the way I think about this is, if I know what to do with a regular sale, I do the exact opposite for a sales return. So I'm just going to show the daybook rule for a regular sale. So the gross total would be debited to debtor's control. the VAT total would be credited to VAT account and the net sale amount would be credited to sales account. But this is for a regular sale. So for a return, the cancellation of the sale, I just reverse the debits and credits. So I have to put a credit to the debtors control account with the gross amount and debit the VAT and debit the sales returns, or you could debit the sales account. So we had not done something in the debtors control account. The gross amount we're told is 434 including VAT, and the other accounts were correct. So the debtors control account, what we wanted to do was we wanted to put something in here. Okay, we didn't do anything at all in there. We did the sales returns value, the net amount went in correctly, and if you do your calculations, you'll find that if 434 is the gross amount including VAT, the net amount works out as 353. That was demonstrated in prior videos, how to go from a gross amount to a net amount. And the VAT was correctly done as well. We put the 81 euros VAT into the VAT account on the debit side. So this is the thing we want to do. The other things we wanted, but we also did. So it's just one correction here. We need to credit the debtors control account for that. And again, in all of these ones to date, we need to have a suspense entry to make the journal entry balance. So these would be credits, these would be credits, these would be credits, but we have to debit the suspense account for each of those to date. Okay, so that's number 3. Now moving to number 4. Okay, this is one that we saw a variation of in a previous question. So staff salaries of €1,000 have been credited to the drawings account in error. However, the bank account entry in relation to these salaries was correct. So staff salaries, okay, so we need to have the salaries account utilized for this. Okay, I'm just going to move things down a wee bit here. Okay, and they went into the drawings account in error, and the bank account, however, was done correctly. So they had been credited to the drawings account, so that's what we did. They should have gone to the salaries account. Now again, if I momentarily show dead click, remember debits for expenses, assets, drawings. So salaries would be an expense, so they should have gone on the debit side of the salaries account. The bank account entry was correct. Well, again, we reduced what's in the bank, so we credited the bank. Okay, so what we did and what we want is 1,000 there. So we have to cancel this. This is not correct. Okay, so we have to cancel the error, and we also have to put in what we want in the salaries account. So there's 2 debits here, and there'll be a corresponding credit in the suspense account. The bank account was absolutely fine, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so that was number 4. Number 5. A payment of £150 to a creditor had been credited to the bank account and debited to the rent account in error. Okay, well again, a payment to a creditor, so it would affect the bank. Again, I'll just move these things down a little bit more. Okay, so it was credited to the bank account. So we put that into the bank account, and that is the correct entry. And it was debited to the rent account. We put 150 in there. We shouldn't have put it into the rent account. It should have gone into the creditor's control account. So that's what we want for that. Again, you could refer to the check payments day book, payments to creditors. You debit the creditor's control account with the total of the payments to creditors. That's one of the posting rules for the day books, the check payments day book. Okay, so we need to put in that on the debit side of the creditor's account, and we basically need to cancel this mistake here in the rent account. Okay, so that shouldn't have gone in there. So it's literally a transfer out of rent and into creditor's control. You see that the debits and credits will offset one another. Okay, so that's item 5. Now item 6, again, I'll just move it down a wee bit more. Okay, so item 6. Depreciation expense for the month totaling 2763 made up of vehicle 1600 and machinery 1163, had only been entered into the credit side of the relevant aggregate depreciation accounts. So again, this is one that we have seen in other questions, and it's also something that hopefully you recall from when we did asset disposal questions, how to deal with depreciation expense. What do you debit and what do you credit? Now, I suppose the key word there is the word expense. If I see the word expense, that tells me a huge amount about how an expense item is treated. An expense item should go on the debit side of the expense account. This is from Dead Click. Okay, so we should debit depreciation expense, and therefore we would credit the aggregate accounts. So we did in fact credit the aggregate accounts. We put 1600 onto the aggregate depreciation of vehicles, and we put 1163 onto the aggregate depreciation of plant and machinery, but this wasn't done. Okay, so we need to do that as part of our solution. So we're going to have to debit depreciation expense, and the corresponding credit will be suspense account. Okay, so that is that item. Again, just move down a little. Okay, so item number 7. Okay, so a van with no net book value was sold for scrap for $250. The only entries made in relation to this transaction were to debit the van account and credit the disposal account with $250. The van originally cost $9,500. Okay, so this is a disposal of an asset, and again, it gets back to that topic, asset disposals. When you dispose of an item of fixed assets, whether it's a vehicle or an item of machinery, you have to update certain accounts to reflect that fact. So a number of accounts are affected here. We have the van cost account is affected, the aggregate depreciation account is affected, the bank account is affected, and the disposal account is affected. Okay, so there's a number of items that are going to be affected by this transaction. Again, I'll just move some items down here. Okay, so so we are told that the van originally cost $9,500. So the van is an asset. So what we want to do is we want to take out $9,500. What we actually did was we debited the van account. Okay, so we debited the van account with $250, and we credited the disposal account. So I'll just show that entry in there. Okay, so we just momentarily hide that. Okay, so we did the $250 debit van cost account and credit asset disposal account. Now, other things we should have done, we want to take out the $9,500 out of cost account and put it into the disposal account. So we also have to cancel that error. So I'll just highlight those two items. Those are things that we're going to be doing. On the aggregate depreciation, you're told the van had no net book value, so therefore the cost and the aggregate depreciation matched each other. So aggregate depreciation normally goes on the credit side, so to get rid of it, we have to debit the aggregate depreciation account and credit the disposal account. Okay, so again, I'm just going to highlight the item there. And the $250 that we received, the scrap proceeds, you would debit the bank account, okay, and you would credit the disposal account. Okay, so again, we did the $250 credit, but we didn't have this. So all these items highlighted in yellow, there's a number of them there, will be what we need to do to fix this item. Okay, and that's actually a type of transaction that has come up in a few of these questions, so it is worth maybe spending a bit of time on this section of the video to ensure that you're familiar with the ins and outs, the debits and credits applying when an asset is sold. Okay, that's item 7. Item 8. Okay, so cash received from a debtor totaling $175 was debited to the debtor's control account and credited to the bank account. Well, so the two accounts that were used, the bank and the debtor's control account. So we debited debtor's control account, so this is what we did, and we credited bank with $175. So at least our debits and credits matched. Now, however, if you are aware of the correct posting, you should know then that those are exactly the opposite of what was required. If you receive money into the bank account, you debit the bank account. Okay, so you have to debit the bank account, so we'll have to cancel that mistake there. And in this instance, you would credit the debtors control account. Okay, so these are the corrections required. We're going to have to debit bank with a total of 350 and credit debtors with a total of 350. Okay, so that's what I would call the rough work that I've gone through to identify the relevant fixes. I do want to stress that this material here that you see, all these ledgers here, they don't actually gain marks in exam questions. This is just really to help clarify in your own mind what needs to be done. Okay, because as you should be seeing, these questions can be quite challenging to work your way through. And I find this idea of doing out the ledger accounts can be helpful, but unfortunately it doesn't actually gain you directly any marks. Where the marks are gained is on the next page, which is the journal entries. So I'm just going to switch to the journal entries, and in the journal entry section, essentially what I'm doing is wherever I've got a yellow highlighted item, say in this example here, I'm going to credit the bank account with a total of whatever that is, 2474. So the journal entry just sets out that instruction. Okay, so let's just switch to the journal entries. So these are the journal entries that apply to this particular question. And again, you can just see the general structure of a journal entry. There's a reference, so journal 1, journal 2, etc. There's the account name, okay, so if it's bank account or debtors control account or disposal account or whatever, and then whether to debit that account or to credit that account. So just to show the first item that we had, this was to fix a balance brought down on the wrong side in relation to the bank account. So here's a copy of what we had. So we want to credit the bank account with the total of that, and we're going to debit suspense. Okay, so bank account and suspense account. Okay, and then just to show the description there as well, I'll just put in the basic description. So just correct misposted opening balance. And that is the first item. Item 2 then, this was again another balance brought down the wrong side. So we have to credit the aggregate depreciation account with the total of whatever this is. So that's 14,734. So aggregate depreciation account credit and suspense account debit. So again, that is that item. Item 3 was in relation to sales returns. We hadn't done the credit entry in the debtors control account. So this was required to credit the debtors control account with the gross amount. So, and debit suspense with the same value. Okay, so that is that. Item 4, this was the drawings account was used for staff salaries. So we have to debit drawings, debit salaries, and the bank account is okay, we'll credit suspense. So debit drawings, debit salaries, and credit suspense. And again, just show the description. Item 5, okay, this was the payment to a creditor that went into the rent account by mistake. So you see that we need to cancel the rent account, credit the rent account, and debit creditors control. Okay, and that is that journal entry. So credit the rent account, debit creditors control. And I also, for each journal entry, I have a very, very brief description describing the reason for the journal entry. So again, you can keep it very, very short. You don't have to get into flights of fancy or essays or anything like that. Item 6, this was the omitted depreciation expense. So you can see that what we need to do is we need to debit depreciation expense. These were correctly dealt with, the aggregate accounts, and we're going to therefore credit the suspense account. Okay, so that's to correct omitted depreciation. Item 7, this was the big one. This was the asset disposal. So we have to credit van cost account, debit van aggregate depreciation account, debit bank account, and there's a debit and credit and disposal. Okay, so there's the 9750 in total and the debit and credit for 9,500. Okay, so again, that is that. And then finally, item 8, this was the receipt from a debtor. We basically put it on the wrong side of both the bank account and the debtor's control account. So you can see we need to debit the bank account at 350 and credit debtor's control with 350. So we won't actually need the suspense account here for this one. That self-balances. So that's the journal entries, and they actually gain marks. And the suspense account then is the last little bit. So anywhere that it says suspense, I need to do an entry in the suspense account. So the suspense account is just another T account, and we'll start by putting in the opening balance. Okay, we were told on the question that the debit column exceeded the credit column by 12,879. Again, think very carefully about that. So the debit side's much greater than the credit side. So to make the trial balance, we had to have the balance on the credit side of the suspense account. Now, Journal 1 tells us to debit the suspense account with 2474. So that's exactly what I do. Bank overdraft 2474. And Journal 2 tells us to debit the suspense account with 14734. Okay, and that's in relation to aggregate depreciation of plant and equipment. Journal 3 tells us to debit it with 434. So that was again in relation to debtor's control account. Journal 4 was a credit for 2,000. There's drawings and salary. So salaries and drawings, 2,000. And it would be perfectly acceptable to have, Journal 1 as the description here, Journal 2, Journal 3. You don't have to have actual text of the names of the other ledger accounts. So that's an alternative and valid way of describing the entries in the suspense account. There was nothing in Journal 5. Journal 6 was credit suspense account with 2763. So 2763. Journal 7 there was nothing. And Journal 8 there was nothing. So that is all those entries. And when you add up the two sides, they both add up to 17,642. So that means that your suspense account now self-balances, and that means you've cleared out all the mistakes. That's the end of the solution.